Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's been quite a while since I've had Crystalina on a show, long overdue, but we are getting together and thinking about what we could do moving forward, and we wanted to start a show, which we are going to do, answering your questions live on anything and everything from life, love, to everything in between. We're going to be launching that real soon. We're going to have an opportunity to send in your questions, and we're going to banter back and forth, but before we do that, we're going to start with a little Q&A that our producer, Josiah, has come up with us. Questions, we don't even know what he's going to ask us, so this is kind of flying off the cuff, and Crystalina is going to just take turns with me answering these things. But Crystal, good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done actually anything with Jason, or not much of anything at all. I've done a couple of talks here and there, but I really kind of just stepped back, and I've been focusing on the family and my health and our marriage, and just kind of taking a season to really just step back and see what it is God wants of me, of us, our kids. Just sometimes you have to do that, right?
Yep. And so now back in the driver's seat, ready to roll. Good to have her co-pilot, piloting, whatever the case may be. But Josiah, let's kick it over to you and see what direction you want to take this. And we're ready to let you fire away.
Okay. Well, I'm actually going to take a detour from what I had to start with, just because I think a great place to start after hearing you guys say that is I would love to know, and maybe you could tell the audience too, what you felt the Lord calling you to take that step back, and what is your feeling of the Lord calling you to come back in to like this kind of thing. I think that's a great place to start. And then we'll get into some more lighthearted stuff as we go, but I think that's a good place to start. I'd really love to hear that.
Well, last May, I actually had a cancer scare, and they thought I might have had a form of cancer, and that was really scary. And that whole month was just completely just kind of made me just step back and almost reset. And there were a lot of other things going on in our life, and just with our kids' lives, our marriage, and it was a moment where I knew I needed to just step back and see what God wanted, the direction he wanted us to go in. And sometimes you have to do that, even though you may think you have everything you want in that moment and everything that's going right and how you almost pictured it in certain aspects of your life. But then there's other aspects where it's like, there's some issues going on here, like my health at the time. So I just knew that's kind of a sign. Okay, I need to maybe step back and rethink some things and take some spiritual inventory with God and have this like almost come to Jesus moment of like, what do I need to do right now? Because I remember sitting in that room, and there were a lot of other women with me, right, in those blue gowns. And those of you that have to go in if for those, I don't know, mammograms, they thought I might have had breast cancer. And you go in there and you're in these sterile blue gowns, and you know those other women are sitting there knowing, is the rest of my life ready to change? And it was a really scary moment. And you kind of are thinking, what's going to happen? Like, you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And it was a really scary moment. So from that point, I just had to kind of step back and reevaluate a lot of things and face a lot of things that I didn't want to. Yeah. Does that sound right?
Sounds right.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Does that make sense, Josiah?
Yes, it does. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. You guys have a lot of kids, 8, right?
That we know of.
We have 8 and 3 babies in heaven. So I had 3 miscarriages. Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. So 11 total. So I have a tribe. I've got a tribe going. Jason and I both do.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I would love to ask you, what age is the hardest to parent?
Wow.
Teenagers.
Yeah. Sure. Little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. So, yes. I mean, when you've got the little ones, you think, oh, this is so overwhelming.
No.
Baby's getting me up 12 times a night. And, they're eating mashed potatoes with their bare hands, and how do we domesticate these little feral beings? But then you look back like, hey, that was kind of nice when the biggest problem were smudges on the windows with little fingers and
broken things.
And then they get into the teenage years and it's like, oh, they're crawling out their window. What is going on there? We need barbed wire and electric fencing and like, what is going on here? So I had heard a dad once who said, before I got married, I had 8 theories on how to raise children, but I didn't have any children. And he said, now I have 8 children, but I have no theories remaining on how to raise them. And so I think that's a bit of the feel of what it's like trying to pivot and figure out what the heck you're talking about. So much easier to give parenting advice about teenagers before you have teenage kids than you do. And it's like, wow, this is a whole new game. So I would say for us, the teenage years for some, I mean, for others, it's been a walk in the park. It just depends. But yeah.
And you were the best parent until you become one. Like before we had kids, I thought, oh, I'm going to be such a good mom and I'm going to do this and this and this. And then you're in the thick of it and it's just like, what is happening, And it's very humbling. Being a parent is incredibly humbling. So just prepare yourself for that. But it's a beautiful, amazing thing, but it's really humbling.
And it's helpful to just take into consideration too, not only the age of the kids, that's tough, but the number of kids, that's tough. I think having 2 or 3 kids is harder than having 8. And parents don't understand that early on. And once things get nuts and you got 2, then you got 3, and it's just like a absolute burning circus. I mean, just craziness. You just think, oh my gosh, this is going to get exponentially more difficult. We're just going to throw in the towel, quit it, and sterilize ourselves. But in reality, having 8 kids is actually easier than having 3, because you got one to go pick up the kids, another one to run the groceries, another one to help out with this, and they're playing with each other. They're keeping each other busy, and so
they run like a pack together.
That's the real hump, 2 or 3. Because I mean, mac and cheese for 6, mac and cheese for 7, it's hardly a noticeable difference. But 1 to 2, 2 to 3 is chaotic. But then you get past that hump and things smooth out a little bit.
Yeah.
What brand of mac and cheese? I have to ask. What brand of mac and cheese is the Evert household?
For a while, we were doing the whole Annie's thing, and then I tried to do just like those egg noodle things, okay, with like the cheese you put on top. My kids are like, and then we just went to Velveeta. I know it's just so bad,
but I'm getting the boys hooked on my daily breakfast.
Yeah, this has been great. This has been really good.
Scrambled eggs, ground beef, and then I throw in some avocados. They're not into that because it's green yet, but just perfect. I mean, it's like eating diesel fuel for breakfast. The boys are lined up with their high protein breakfast instead of Lucky Charms. So good to get them hooked on real food.
What age do boys start liking green things? Because I don't think I've hit it yet, and I'm 26.
I think it's like 36 or 46. I think is the magic number.
You're just out there. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
green gummies. Green gummies, they'll eat. Green Fruit Loops.
Green energy drink, right?
Yeah. Monster Energy. Yeah, that's the green stuff.
That's great.
There you go. Okay, that's awesome. I do enjoy crushing a box of Kraft for dinner as a single man.
Kraft, that's a good. Yeah, we got that going too. So.
All right. So, what is, if you're comfortable, could you tell us like a funny story of something your kids did that was just like, maybe at the time you're like, why did you do that? Like it was a misbehaving, but like looking back on it, it's hysterical. I know a lot of parents have those stories. Being around a lot of big families, I've seen a lot of those stories happen.
I know what you're going to say. I know.
Can I say it?
It's so bad, everyone. Okay. I didn't mean to.
I don't know which one you're thinking about,
never
but
mind.
I think you are thinking about it. So I have a thing that I tell parents to do, that whenever your kids say or do anything remarkably funny or whatever, write it down immediately. Don't think you're going to remember it, because only 5% of the time will you. Just whip out a little app on your phone and say, blah, 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 Joseph, age 5, click, record, done. I have more than like 50 pages of single-spaced, incredibly hilarious stories of the children since day one. All of the kids. They begged me to read from this book because it's just the most hilarious stuff imaginable. I think one of my faves was Crystal decided that she wanted to make sure the kids knew proper body part names. Okay. So that's not a hoo-hoo or a wee-wee or a pee-pee or a hee-hee. That's a this and that's a that. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm good with that. They can know body part names. Nothing wrong with that. So she instructs the kids. This is what that is. This is what you call that. And it's okay. Now, so when you tell that to like a 6 or 7 year old or whatever, they share that information with all ages of children in the family so that everybody knows. So we're driving to school, Josiah, and I'm in the front, got some kids in the back, and one of the kids who ascertained this new information said to me, Dad, is Asia a continent? And I said, yes. I said, Asia is a continent. I said, China is in Asia. And he said, oh, like penis. What? And I turned around and he said, yeah. He said, you either have a China or you have a penis. I almost drove the car off the side of the road. But you have a China. So that's one for you. I don't know if that counts as good enough, but ties into the chastity theme in some level. But yeah, so be prepared. These little anecdotes are going to come. Write them down, or you will forget them. But put a record of them, and you will have a book of just pure gold. Yeah. So
that would be. I think we'd be having a very different discussion about tariffs if that was the case.
Yeah, this is true.
Touche.
Sorry, it was underhand. I could not.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome.
It's great.
So, what if you guys were to have an animal that's not traditionally considered a pet animal, but you guys were to have it as a family pet? What animal would you want that to be?
Great white shark.
And why?
A great white shark.
I
know they can't be in captivity, which is unfortunate, but
straight up.
Yeah, I'd go for a white shark.
I already said potbelly pig. I've
pig.
Always wanted a potbelly pig. So
this is a debate. She actually wants a pig.
When
I know that
grandma,
white shark's not feasible.
A potbelly pig, like that can be in my future.
We're gonna call it bacon.
I mean,
dip.
I can get my phone out. We can start a timer. We can do a formal debate on why or why not Everett should get a potbelly pig.
We already kind of have one. We have this English
bulldog,
and she is.
Her name is Meatball.
Her name is Meatball, and she walks around the house snorting like a pig. She's just a filthy animal, and she eats like a pig. And so God kind of gave me that almost as close as I'm going to get right now. So
yeah,
there we go.
But she's
awesome.
precious. She's precious.
What is do you when did you guys? So you have 2 dogs then, right?
Yeah, we have South African Borbal, which is a gigantic African Mastiff bred in Africa to protect families from lions. So she's a big girl. The kids named her Megalodog after the movie Megalodon, but dog, so we just call her Meg for short. Very, very good with the kids. But if you're not part of the family, you're basically Al Qaeda. Amazon. I mean, UPS has physically thrown boxes at her when she comes out. So she's a little rough around the edges. So we lock her up when company comes around.
Yes, we have to lock her up. She is massive. But I feel so safe with all the travel that Jason does. No problem.
I mean, if a burglar comes and sees the size of the doggy door, they know I'm not going to go in there because of what could potentially come out of that. If a grown man can fit through the doggy door, you don't want to greet what's going to come out of it. So.
Yeah, and I didn't realize what she was capable of at first. And when she got bigger, someone came to our door, and he was wearing a mask because he was spraying for bugs and things, and she freaked out, and she stood on her hind legs and banged her paws against the door, and she freaked me out. I didn't know dogs were capable of that, but she scared me. So she was amazing. But she's so friendly and she's so gentle with our children. And
but what's interesting is if I am goofing off with Crystal and the dog perceives it as aggression from me towards her, the dog will come after me. Yeah. Will get between us and put its butt towards her and face me if it thinks that I'm being aggressive with her, if we're just goofing off or whatever. So they just have this very instinctive maternal grizzly bear thing going on. So yeah,
we love it.
Awesome.
Except when company
what
comes
age?
over.
How much? Have you guys always been pet people? Like, or like what? When did you guys start getting pets? Like, yeah.
I mean, I've always been a dog person.
We're engaged. He got me a Chihuahua. I always wanted a Chihuahua. He totally gave in, guys. He
horrible creature. Chihuahua. It was a miserable.
Oh, it was so high maintenance.
Can we cut this? My girlfriend has a Chihuahua.
It's such a terrible decision.
I'm gonna like it.
They live forever.
Like,
oh my gosh.
They live forever.
And then we got married. Once we got married, right? I have this like little Chihuahua, and he wanted an English Mastiff. It was out of control. And so we got one, and it was just this oddball.
The Chihuahua was the alpha. It was really messed up.
The Chihuahua was the alpha. So anyway, yeah, it was odd, but it was great.
Yeah, just endless health problems.
Josiah's just
allergy shots, ear problems, eye problems.
I'm just knowing I'm going to hear about this now.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
No, don't go there. Sounds like it's
You got the
our
Chihuahua.
She has one, so she's convinced that we're going to become friends, and I'm like, why? Okay.
Charles is friends with no one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cat. But
any dog under 20 pounds is a cat, and cats are pointless.
Yeah.
Ron Swanson.
Oh, there's cat people out there.
I'm highly allergic, so I'm allowed to dislike them.
Okay, that makes sense.
What is when you guys? Okay, so this is kind of maybe a multi-part, but like when you guys first started dating, did you have similar tastes in entertainment or like in movies, TV shows? Like what a lot of, you hear couples be like, "Oh, we have so much in common." So what was the thing you guys had in common that like really helped in the early stages?
It's never been movies or entertainment because we're totally as far opposite as you can get on that. I will watch maybe one movie a year. That's it. Like I just won't. It's just not my thing. I'll watch maybe a little bit of basketball or golf on TV. Rarely though. I just don't do it. Where she loves Marvel. I
did for a while there. Yeah, all those Marvel movies were great. I loved it at the very beginning. Now things have changed and shifted, but in the beginning I did. But I don't like TV as much.
So entertainment. I don't think it was a common bond between us when we were dating. I think my primary love language is doing things together. So we'd go to the beach, you do tide pooling in San Diego where you just walk along the shore and you're just looking for cool stuff and shells and, jellyfish or octopus or whatever you can find. And,
we go hiking.
That was fun. So we go hiking in Torrey Pines.
Surfing.
I took her night surfing. She acted like she was cool with it, but she was dead inside. I think she stepped on something slimy at some point.
It's gross. But yeah.
So I would say more shared activities as opposed to entertainment or media.
I think when you're dating, it's important to know your love language. Even when you're married, if you don't know your love language, that can be a problem. And a lot of people don't know their love language, right? Josiah, do you know your love language? I know, odd question. Do you? Most people don't. Yeah. I don't think they do. But if you go on that website, what is it? The 5lovelanguages.com.
I don't know what the URL is, but if you Google Gary Chapman 5 love languages, you can come up with
on screen right now.
Boom.
Oh, there you go. Click that.
Boom. And the thing is, just take a quick
Date night.
5-minute test. And then okay, you're geared more towards doing things or gifts or affirmations or whatever. And that's just like a good base to know what you like and also to let your partner know.
But you got to be careful in the dating stages. Let's say the guy is like, well, my primary love language is physical affection. And her love language is words of praise. Well, he could give her words of praise all day long and make her feel loved. But when you're dating, you just need to be careful that one partner isn't kind of guilting the other and to be like, well, you should be doing more physical things with me because I don't feel loved if you don't do X, Y, Z. Yeah. That could, I think, turn manipulative a little bit too fast in one direction or the other.
And guilt is never a form of love on any level. Okay. It's like if you want something, speak it, say it, but don't guilt someone and manipulate them to get what you want. That's a problem. So if that's happening in a relationship, that's a red flag.
Yeah. And it's not only the physical stuff. I mean, your love language might be like, I think one of them is gift giving. That could turn manipulative. Like, well, if you don't buy me this or that, I don't feel loved by you. It's like, so I mean, you got to be careful with the expectations, especially prior to marriage. And then even in marriage in terms of like, well, my love language is this, but you're exhausted. And so I should expect this, but that's not fair. Or she wants to buy X, Y, Z, but it's beyond the family budget. But, I think there's still a lot we can learn because we tend to give the love that we want to receive. And that's where quizzes like that can come in handy.
Yeah, they're fun.
Okay, so this is an interesting question then. What is maybe you've thought about this before, maybe you haven't. I would love to hear the answer. You mentioned specifically in the dating stage physical touch as a love language. What are some things that if like one of the two partners in a dating relationship, like it genuinely is physical touch, what are some things that you recommend that can help with that, but not going too far? What are some chaste ways to show physical affection in a dating relationship?
It was at Seek this last year, and afterwards, there was a line of people that wanted to talk, and I was just, hey, how's it been for you? Any good talks that you really enjoyed? And a lot of the young women said, oh, I really like Jackie Angel's talk. And I'd ask the next one, oh, I really like Jackie Angel's talk. And then somebody started saying, I was like, what is it that she said that really resonated with you? And several of them said the same thing. They said it was really helpful when she helped us to distinguish arousal from affection. that there's a line right there. It's one thing to express affection to your boyfriend or girlfriend, but arousal, deliberate sexual arousal, belongs within the confines of the sacrament of marriage. And so again, the key there, deliberate, meaning like if you experience sexual arousal, like, oh, I just sinned. It's like, well, no, there's a reaction that you could experience being attracted to somebody, but then, okay, how do I respond to that reaction? What do I do then? Am I kind of engineering my dates so that it can end in that way? That, yeah, I'll do this and this with her, but then hopefully at 11 o'clock at night, nobody's going to be around and we can hang out on a couch and X, Y, and Z can happen. We've got to check the modesty of my intentions in that regard. But affection, fine. Deliberate sexual arousal belongs in the sacrament of marriage. So try to think of that. Is this purely affectionate, or is this for the purpose of arousal? Because the eyes aren't satisfied with seeing, the ears aren't satisfying with hearing. You know, the scriptures tell us that it's the same with physical touch, that once that we begin that curve of sexual arousal, we're generally not satisfied until we're relieved, in particular males, meaning once that desire, that spark has been ignited, it typically isn't satisfied until it consumes. It's almost like a forest fire. It stops burning when all the fuel's gone. And so we just need to temper that, because it's a good gift, but it's intoxicating to just say, hey, let's focus on the affection rather than the arousal. So I think that's a helpful distinction. Any other thoughts?
Kudos to Jackie. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, no one talks about that.
And you can find that talk online too. That Seek put out a lot of the talks. It was the women's session that she gave at Seek 2025. So if you want to see the full context, check that out.
Then you just know.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So what's the funniest thing that happened when you guys were dating in your relationship? Funniest, weirdest, just something that maybe just a story that stands out from when you guys were dating, that you look back on and think, wow, that's okay.
One thing that was kind of funny is that when we were just getting to know each other as friends, we met in the Bahamas at a chastity talk, and we kind of hit it off. And then she moved back to Denver and I moved back to California. And we kept in touch a little bit during that time. And, and then after about a year, we started getting more in touch. But meanwhile, there was a woman who was expressing interest in me that I really wasn't interested.
She was like a stalker. Let's be honest. She was completely stalking him.
She said it. I didn't. But yeah. And so when one day I get a call from that person, and I was really trying to convey, like, I'm really not interested. I'm giving you I'm polite, but giving you short, curt answers to kind of make it real clear for you. This isn't going anywhere, nor have I ever wanted it to. And, but the person calls, and for whatever reason, she said her name so quick, I thought it was this other girl.
Crystal.
And
her name was Crystal.
I don't remember what the girl's name was, but no, I don't think it was, but it was something phonetically similar.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was the other girl. So I'm like, yep, okay.
He was so rude and standoffish.
I mean, it wasn't rude, but it was just very standoffish.
Okay.
Just like, I'm not interested.
That's true.
And meanwhile, she's on the other side of the line thinking,
I'm like,
I am never going to call this guy again. Like, we are never, ever getting back. Yeah. Like, she was just like, okay, I am so done.
I was mad. I was just like, I finally called him. I got the gumption to call him, right? And back then, I just want to be friends. I didn't want anything to do with guys. I was just trying to heal. And then I call him, and he was so standoffish. I'm like, oh, this is who he really is. Forget you. So I started being standoffish.
At the end of the conversation, she said something about Denver. And I'm like, well, what are you doing in Denver? She's like, well, I live here. I'm like, what do you mean you live in Denver? When did you move? I didn't move. And then we break through. It's like, I thought you were.
And I said, who did you think you were talking to? And he's like, oh, there's this stalker lady.
So it turned out that Crystal was the stalker all along, but I did want to talk to this. No, she never stalked me.
No.
So yeah,
but it was great. So
that was kind of awkward, but entertaining moment. So.
Yeah. So I have to say, I will just interject this right now without you even asking.
Yes, go.
A funny story in Jason and I's marriage.
Where's this going?
Oh, so he's learning and he got these, like, what are those called? Those bow and arrows. I have to tell them this. These bow.
Oh,
what is,
I
compound
wrote this
hunting
down.
bow.
I wrote this down. I wrote down, tell me about
my
the time you
gosh.
tried to kill Jason.
I didn't mean
Which time?
to. And he was okay. He was okay. But he just got this compound bow and we're in the backyard. He's like, you want to try it? And I'm like, sure, this would be great. All the kids had bows and they're doing their thing. They have their huge targets and deers and off in the far distance. And then I get it and go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
It was terrible. It was bad. And I didn't realize, like, the little lever is what makes the bow just shoot off. Like, that's the first time I had this thing and I could barely, like, do it. It was massive. It was just hard.
It's a compact, so it's like 70 something pounds of what you need to draw it.
Like,
so I know she can't draw it all the way back, but I put the arrow in and I said, now just don't pull it back when anyone is in front of you ever.
Well,
I walk in front of her.
I barely went like this.
And she does exactly what I said don't do.
Like, and boom, and it went
And
right
then-
into his chest.
And so she pulled a Cupid.
Literally.
Like, we're talking
in his chest.
We're talking like Saint
"Shot
Sebastian
me."
level. I started telling her she should call me Sebastian.
It was bad. He was like, and then he yanks it out and blood just like starts coming out. And all the kids are like, screaming, Mom shot Dad.
Yeah.
It was bad. And there was like no skin to pull over, put together, like for I mean,
She's like, should you go to the hospital? I'm like, what are they going to stitch? Just a hole in my chest?
It was, and he's like bleeding through his shirt still. And I'm just like, this is so bad. But it only went in like maybe that far.
Just a smidge because those rib things and all that.
I've apologized. I'll continue to apologize. I won't touch a bow and arrow since then.
Yeah.
It just freaks me out. It does. So that kind of ruined that experience. For
Special
me.
love for Saint
No
Sebastian.
Braveheart here. Okay. It's over.
How did you explain all the children yelling "Mom shot Dad" to the neighbors?
Oh, they told everybody.
Oh,
I mean, like, Mom shot Dad with a compound bow.
I'm
And
sorry. It was horrible. It was an accident.
I mean, thankfully, it wasn't a broadhead. It was just like,
Oh my gosh.
tip, so
It's
not
literally
quite
straight in his. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah. So that was, I don't think you've touched the bow since that day.
No, I freaked out. I just, all my Braveheart dreams are over. And like, it's over. It's over.
And then before we go to the next question, again, we want to thank everybody who's supporting us on Patreon. Our camera that you're watching this was purchased because of the people on Patreon. This light, that bookshelf, this microphone, everything was made possible because of the people who support us on Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/Jason Evert, and that goes to support this podcast. It is not a nonprofit, so it's not a tax-deductible gift. It's more of a membership thing that supports our ministry and our family. If you want to support the ministry, which is a nonprofit, go to chastity.com and you can make a tax-deductible gift over there. But our Patreon community helps solely support this show and our family. And so everyone who pledges support for $5 a month, $20 a month or more is a tremendous gift to our family and all the people we're trying to reach through this show.
Okay, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when people interview comedians, they like to ask them about like, you know, it's fun to look back on, funny and fun to look back on times that comedians have bombed. Like, what was my worst show, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of people enjoy that from comedians. So I want to ask you, as a speaker for many years now, can you tell us about a time that you like you just bombed? You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember the assembly distinctly. It was a Catholic high school, I think somewhere in the Midwest, I forget. You know, and I roll in, it's total normal. I, get all set up. I go over to the chapel, get ready. I mean, it just feels like everything's set to go. Totally normal kids, normal school. And the kids are in two parts of the gymnasium, the lower half and then the upper part of the bowl. And during the talk's going on and the lower half is just really engaged and they're just locked in and they're, laughing and interacting. I'm like, okay, but the top half, I don't know if the sophomores, juniors or whatever it was, were just gone. They were just, and they're talking to each other. And I'm just really trying to like get them engaged and them focused. And I'm like giving content like specifically just for them and trying to get their attention. And like, it was useless. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I really started kind of, man, what kind of spiritual oppression are these kids under that they're just so resistant to the chastity message? And after the talk, the kids come down after the gym and after the talk, and the seniors and juniors around, they're picking up all the chastity books and excited, and then a couple of sophomores, juniors, waddle down, what's all this stuff? And I'm like, well, what'd you think of the talk? And they're like, oh, the speakers don't work in the top half of the gym. We couldn't hear anything you said for an hour and a half. And I'm sitting there like taking it so deeply, personally and spiritually. And it's just like, no, they couldn't hear for an hour and a half. So they're just whipping out their phone, hanging out with their neighbors, doing whatever. They just completely missed the chastity talk. So that made me feel a little bit better. But it's just a sign of how easily you can misread audiences sometimes. I think sometimes you overestimate your capacity to do so. I remember, 'cause sometimes you can read them like a book. I remember coming into a classroom once, and the teacher was, because I'll do Q&As in the classes after the assembly sometimes, and a teacher pulls me aside. She's like, thank you for coming to this class. There is a couple in this class, and they really need you to, set them straight, blah, blah, blah. And so her class was there. There's a couple other classrooms. So, the room was packed, kids sitting on the windowsills and the radiators. And, so I do the Q&A, and then, it's for an hour, and then the kids leave, and the teacher's like, thank you. And I'm like, let me guess. The boy was the second one in on the left, and the girl was on the fourth row, second girl from the back sitting over there. And she's like, how did you know? There's 50 kids in the class. You knew who either, and like, you can just read some people. You can see what's going on there. And so sometimes you get all puffed up and thinking like, I'm like Padre Pio, like almost John Vianney. I could just read souls. But then God's like, okay, that's where you're at. Let's get you humbled. And so I went to another school, and after the assembly, we did a Q&A in the chapel. And this girl comes and sits down. The boy sits down next to her in this big full chapel. And, I'm doing the talk, but the girl just looks ticked, man. She's just, and the guy's sitting next to her, and he's trying to kind of cozy up to her and get her it seemed like he was trying to distract her and tell her jokes and say things into her ear, but she was just not having it. And so I'm thinking, okay, I see what's going on here. She heard the chastity talk. She realized this guy is a manipulative user, and he's trying to distract her from what I'm trying to say, and she's not having it, and she's upset with him. And so I'm reading this is the narrative of what's going on. Then the Q&A is over, and who comes right up to me after the talk? It's the boy. And he's like, oh, your chastity talk was awesome, and I loved it, and I watch all your stuff. And I'm like, whoa, you did? You really liked it? He's like, oh yeah, it was so good. I'm like, the girl you were sitting next to, how did it resonate with her? Are you guys together? Or it seemed like she was kind of upset about something. And she's like, oh, he's like, no, we're not dating. He's like, she's a friend of mine, but she was really upset because she's super traditional and all that. And she was really upset that the Blessed Sacrament was not reposed in the tabernacle before you began the Q&A in the chapel. Okay, I missed that one. I misread that one. I'll stay in my lane. I'm not a soul reader. Let's just move on with life. So yeah.
Things happen.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's great. Is there any talks that you gave that stand out as especially fruitful, later on? So I would imagine that speaking for so long that you've heard not just immediately after oh, thank you for this, it really helped me, but a years later, I heard this years ago story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful season of ministry right now, because I'll give a talk and the principal will come up and say, hey, I was in high school here when you gave the assembly, and now I'm the principal of the school. I'm like, dude, get out of here. You're just making me feel so old. But it's beautiful getting to meet parents who are now coming to the talk, who heard the talk themselves as teenagers and now have 6, 7 kids. And they're bringing their teenagers to the chastity talk. So that's beautiful to see. But I think one of my favorite ones was I came to a typical high school assembly, and the assembly I think was in the afternoon, and so I get there and we're walking through the cafeteria, and the principal stops me, and the principal's like, hey, do you see that girl over there, in the red sweater or whatever? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you remember her? And I'm like, I don't no, I'm sorry. He said, yeah. He said, you came here 3 or 4 years ago, and after the assembly, she pulled you aside because she had some questions, and he said, you guys sat in that stairwell right over there behind that window for 45 minutes, hour, whatever, and you listening to what she was going through. And apparently he said, Jason, you had some sense that whoever she was talking to online was just bad news. And the principal said, yeah, you came to me after that and you flagged it, and you said, whoever she's talking to is danger and the school needs to look into that guy. And he said, we looked into it. And he said, it was not some teenage boy. grooming her. It was an adult male, a registered sex offender, and we were able to get the logs of their conversations, and the guy was a full-on sex offender. He said, that man is now arrested because of the assembly and what we were able to find out because you flagged it. And now he's in jail, and she's sitting at our cafeteria having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with her girlfriends. And I'm just like, boom. I mean, to me, that's the fruit of all the nuns who pray for our talks. We got 100 convents of nuns who pray for the grace of conversion to everybody who hears it. One girl even emailed me and she said that I met her after the assembly, and she apparently was sexually assaulted by her boyfriend, and she took him to court over this. And he denied it. Like, no, it was consensual or never happened, whatever. And the jury, the judge, whatever, ruled in the guy's favor. And she was just torn apart that the guy could violate her in such a profound way and then get away with it and make it look like that she actually wanted it and it was kind of her fault. And so they did a retrial to get a different judge or whatever, more attorneys involved. And again, he won the second lawsuit, that nope, wasn't me, totally innocent. And so now, I mean, you talk about adding insult to injury and put salt in the poor girl's wounds. And years went by and she was just always just holding so much bitterness and resentment. And then she told me that she got a phone call from his attorney, I guess through her attorney, that he wanted a retrial, a third one. And they're like, why? Like, he's already gotten off twice. Why does he want a third retrial? And they said, apparently he's prepared to admit his guilt. And so they went through this retrial process. And during the cross-examination or whatever, they asked him, why are you now coming forward after years of denying that you did this to this poor young woman? And he said that I guess he went to a Catholic high school, and he said that his religion teacher showed the class our chastity presentation on some DVD or VHS cassette or whatever that was at the time, or YouTube. And he said when he watched that talk in his religion class, he realized he needed to make right what he made wrong. And so he, redid the trial, confessed his guilt, and she was exonerated, and she was given whatever punishment he should have been. So, but to me, you get to hear these stories, and it's just like, praise God. You just know it's the fruit of the perversion, or the fruit of the intercessory prayer of all these nuns.
Yeah, and it also goes to show that just how important the spiritual element is to things in a person's life. And just if you need prayers, ask for it. And if you're really struggling, not to be too prideful to say, oh, well, I got this, I can do this, because you don't got this and you can't do this on your own. And I used to lie to myself saying, oh, I'll never do this and this again. And I would always do it again. The temptation would come and I didn't have the tools. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't have the grace. But when I was doing it with God and I was asking for prayers and I was asking for help in that specific area, I was able to overcome things. So it just goes to show how important the spiritual element is in our lives, and not to kind of push that aside and thinking, oh, well, later, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to read this next book, or I'm going to go to the gym. It's like, no, get right with God, put things in sync with him. And then I think you'll be on the right path from there.
And I think it's important not to get too elevated if you think you crushed a talk, or not too down if you think you bombed it, because you can walk away thinking, man, I bombed that. Nobody was listening to me. But it triggered someone's conscience, and they went to confession later, and it sparked conversion in their life, and they became the next pope 30 years from now. Like, you have no idea. Or you could walk away like, that was the best one ever. They were so engaged. And everybody just walks home and falls back into the same old habits. And so it isn't about you or your understanding. Sometimes there's just too much self-love intermingled in ministry of, I love the satisfaction I get from feeling that I changed all these people's lives. And when in reality, if you really want to change their life, fast for them. Pray a rosary, do a holy hour for them. You can reach every soul on earth without having to pick up a microphone once. And the interior life comes before the exterior.
Jason, what's the quickest way to get Crystalina to laugh?
I like stealing her yawns.
Oh, I hate it. It's the worst.
It's
I never
really
should have
fun.
thought of that. That is
It's really fun. Do this to people in your life.
No, Josiah.
Like,
It's a worn out. It's
okay, so as
worn.
soon as they start yawning, just like put your hand on their mouth. Just like,
just
oh, look, you're yawning. And they're like, oh, and they can't finish it. And it's so dissatisfying.
So dissatisfying.
And then you're like, I took it and it's in my pocket.
Like,
or I
oh,
have
I'm
it
so
here.
full. Yum,
And it
yum,
drives her insane. So what I did is
I'll trade. I'll give you one in a second.
Oh yeah. So let me just finish this.
So mad, frustrated.
So the other morning she was just really tired. Got up with the kids 30 times. So I just stole all of her yawns consecutively one morning, like 3 or 4. And she's just had it.
I'm gonna get.
And so I said, I know what I'm doing. She's gonna try to get me back. So I'm gonna pretend to yawn she'll try to stick her finger in my mouth and I'll just bite it. So she's seeing that I'm getting him. I'm like, and she's like, I'm like, like she screamed so loud. The dog, the Borbal, ran out of my daughter's bedroom, down the hallway, into our room to like defend her from me. Woke up like 2 or 3 of the children. It was great.
They're so mad. Like, get out of it.
That rocks, dude.
Yeah. So do that for the rest of your life. She'll really appreciate that.
If somebody is like,
yeah, I'm scared he's gonna bite me.
you know?
Oh yeah, and then
they're like trying to get a sneeze out. Touch them right on the forehead, right here, right above and between the eyes. And
no sneeze for you.
Sneeze.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just no sneeze for you.
It's coming. It's coming right there.
I don't need to sneeze.
He's gonna
I'm
sneeze.
happy to contribute to this aspect of your
We're
relationship.
keeping score.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Totally
That's what marriage is about, right? Keeping score and winning.
It's just a thing we have. Whatever.
Oh, it's so good. That's a great one. I like that a lot. That's so fun.
Oh, you bit my finger. Not hard, but still.
I have rabies.
Did you say I don't have rabies?
Yeah, he just did.
Because he got bit.
The kids, he bit me. We're all laughing. It was great. It's like 6 a.m.
That's so awesome. That's so funny. I love that so much.
It's good stuff.
Whatever.
Is that Jason's weirdest habit, Crystal, is stealing yawns? Or is
well,
there
she taught
weird,
me that.
funny...
I taught
it to
me.
It's her fault.
Okay, so it's your fault. I was feeling
a
little bad for you until just now.
Yeah, it's like what Adam said. The woman you put here with me, you know, she gave it to me. So she gave me that.
It turned on me really bad. So yeah.
Mess with the bull gets the horns.
Whatever.
Hey, want to invite you all to check out our website, JP2Trails.com. If you love the outdoors like I do, want to go on an adventure, learn about the writings of St. John Paul II, and meet other Catholic young adults, most of whom are single, go to JP2Trails.com. We've got trips coming up in Yosemite, Texas, California. We've got them coming up in Switzerland, in Italy, in Utah. Not only myself with Jackie Angel, we've got one coming up with Paul J. Kim. We've got amazing chaplains that come with us. I mean, on one of our trips recently, the priest is hearing confessions on the ski lift, on the chair lift up at the top of the slope, giving absolution, which really comes in handy if you die going down to Double Black Diamond on the way down.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a joke. So, but yeah, if you're into adventure, love John Paul II, want to meet other Catholic young adult singles, go to jp2trails.com, sign up for a trip near you.
When did Jason? When did you know Crystalina was the one? Crystalina, when did you know Jason was the one?
Well, honestly, when I saw her, something clicked. Where I thought, like, should I tell her now that I'm going to marry her, or should I tell her later? I really discerned that, and I figured it was probably a prudent judgment not to tell her in the first 5 minutes of knowing her. So I kind of held back on that. But there was definitely an immediate spark, an immediate attraction, immediate feeling of like, wow, you know, this person not only is beautiful, but, you know, became very clear. Okay, she's here at a chastity conference wanting to promote chastity. She values modesty. She values a prayer life. Like, there were just so many things that clicked. But like I said, you know, we only knew each other for 4 or 5 days when we met, and then we spent the next year apart. Yeah. But in a sense, there was a goodness about that we could kind of just get to know each other just as friends, you know, at a distance. But then ultimately discernment has to take place face to face, and then she moved out. But, you know, a story that I often tell when I give talks to college students is I remember when I met this one girl and I knew she was the one, because I had never felt this way about a girl before. I could totally see ourselves, you know, together, and it didn't end up working out, but she ended up going to a different 3rd grade than I did. And then I never saw her after like the 2nd grade summer, but I moved on, met a girl in high school, knew she was the one, took her to a couple dances. It didn't work out. She married a friend of mine, and that's okay. Then I got to college and met a girl and absolutely knew she was the one. Never felt this way about a girl. Dated for like 6 months, didn't work out. We stayed friends. She married a friend of mine, then met another girl, knew this is the one. We tried on wedding rings together. Our parents loved each other. Dated for 2 years. Eventually I broke up with her, but we stayed good friends. And then she married a friend of mine. Then at last met a woman during my master's studies and knew this is the one. Never felt this way about a girl before. Know she's meant to be. It didn't end up working out. We stayed friends after breaking up, and then she married a friend of mine. And then when I was 24, I'd met Crystalina. And, by then all my friends had married my ex-girlfriend, so she had no option but to remain with me, and we just got married. So that initial spark was there, but I think what I'd learned from the other relationships is I thought you could forecast your destiny by the intensity of your present emotions, which is not reality. God alone knows the future. And so you're with the one when they have your last name, when your rings are on each other's finger and you choose for that person to be the one on a day-to-day basis. So instead of thinking it's like this intoxicating feeling you've never felt before, God alone knows the future. So that's kind of my take on the idea of the one.
I will say we were in the Bahamas and we were at that retreat. But when Jason's headlights pulled up and I was sitting outside on the retreat center, I knew whatever was in that car was going to change my life. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know what was happening. I just had that feeling and I freaked out. And I went to the furthest place from the front door, which was the kitchen. And I busted in there and I said, is there anything I can do? Can I help? They're like, oh, of course. And I just started doing dishes. I was at the counter. And the first place this guy goes was the kitchen. And he busted in there. He's like, is there any food left? And I freaked out. But I knew when I met him, I knew it. There was just something I knew. This was going to be my husband. And it was like, The Bachelor on an island. There were maybe 20 girls and one guy.
No, there were like 3 other guys. So
but it wasn't even
It was funny. It was just like this.
With these girls. But it was, all just.
It was like, it wasn't intended to be that. It was supposed to be this like Catholic young adult conference for people who want to promote chastity.
It's mostly girls.
And it's like 30 girls show up and like 3 guys. And I was the only male presenter. Then there were 2 other female presenters and she was there. And it was like, but I mean, heavy is the hand that holds the rose. That you have to, is that what the, no.
No idea.
It's like a bachelor.
You should know that either.
So.
Honestly,
I don't,
Jason, you should not know that.
I don't know that.
No.
But I remember being up in the dorm with the girls and we're all there and we're hanging out. And I remember one of the girls saying, whoever marries Jason is so lucky. And deep down, I was thinking, I'm so going to marry him. That's weird. She just said that. But I said nothing. I kept my mouth shut.
And for 21 years straight, she hasn't stopped thinking, I'm the luckiest.
The luckiest girl.
No, before you get married, it's like, hey, I'm a great catch. Then you get married and you're like, wow, I'm a jerk. I'm selfish. I'm self-absorbed. I'm not a very forgiving person. I'm not very patient. So, God gently disabuses you of these notions of your own perfection quite efficiently in marriage. And part of the healing process. So,
yeah.
That's awesome. I can tell talking to you guys, this is the second time that I've met Crystalina, but I can tell talking to you guys that you guys are not just like a great couple, but you're also like friends. And I know that you said like you got an opportunity to build that friendship before you started your relationship, but I imagine, when you're at 21 years, you have to like that friendship continues to grow. So what is some advice maybe you could give to newly married couples or newly engaged couples on how to continue to grow the friendship aspect of their relationship into like the long-term, life commitment?
Well, I'd say before you get married, it happens very naturally because you don't have a lot going on. I mean, you do. I got a job. I got some friends. I got whatever. But like once girlfriend comes into the picture, it's like, I can just spend so much time with her and we can just have fun. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to walk the dogs. Like it just happens naturally. It's kind of like when you start your spirituality and you go on a retreat and it's just exciting and fun. But like in order to progress into the deeper levels of the interior life or the married life, it has to become a very deliberate act at times. Like a date is not going to happen this week unless I say, to our daughter, Mary, we need you to watch the kids on Friday night, on Sunday night from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Like if we don't carve it out, it isn't going to happen. So I've carved out a deal with my daughter, Mary, where she's like, I want these Pilates classes, every weeks. And so I look at the cost of the class. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. You can have Pilates twice a week and we get a date once a week. You got to watch the kids and I'll pay for your Pilates. She's like, deal. And so now it's just up to us to carve out that time. I've heard some couples that have a formula where it's like 1 date a week, 1 night away per month. And then I think it's like 1 full weekend away per month once a year, and then 1 longer vacation once. I forget what it is, but like there's this formula where you have to carve out deliberate blocks of time away from the kids. And that when you go on the date, the temptation is like catch up. So what's going on with John Paul? And does this person have, let's leave the kids at home, not just physically leave the kids at home, but mentally leave the kids at home so we can kind of connect. So I would say it's got to be intentional in terms of building that friendship, or otherwise it just won't happen. And yeah, I mean, yeah, rough times are going to come, but I think if you're planning to deliberately create emotional intimacy and mental intimacy and all those other things, I've got one buddy who's got 20 plus years of marriage and he's never missed his weekly date night in 20 years. I have another friend who's gone on, get this, 82 honeymoons with his wife. And not every single one is to Tuscany, but
like,
he's carved out that time.
You know, like what's
I think
going
they've
on
got
there?
7. I think we got 7.
Wow.
You know, but that's the fruit of the honeymoon. It's not like we have so many honeymoons. They're not like dinks, like double income, no kids.
Catching up to do here, Evert.
Yeah.
82 honeymoons. I think you should have 82 kids. Sorry,
Yeah,
I can cut that.
no, that's
I apologize.
It's very pro-life.
Pro-life here. Josiah is very pro-life.
It's a very pro-life
sentence. Hey.
Yeah, 82 honeymoons. I think you should have 82 kids. I don't apologize.
You might want to run that by the missus, but yeah.
You know, there was a time where we completely neglected our friendship and we weren't doing these things. And there was a lot of distance between us and it did cause a lot of problems. And it's really important you fight for that time together and that you put it in place. And for those new couples out there, if you get anything out of this, get this, is that defend your marriage and your time and what you allow in, because things that you think are so innocent in the very beginning, like if it's a new hobby or a new friend or workout or whatever it is, and it slowly starts putting distance between you, it's like almost this crack that goes in the foundation that's becoming a little more of a priority than both of you together. And anything new that comes into your lives, I would really highly suggest that you discern it, you pray about it, and everything that I do from this point on, and Jason, we're very Eucharistic. I put everything through the Eucharist. I give it to Jesus. I ask him, is this what he wants? If he doesn't, to take it away, to deal with it how he sees fit. If he doesn't want us doing this, if he doesn't want us having these friends, even in our children's lives, if we don't like certain friends or they have new friends, I ask Jesus, please, if this isn't your will and this isn't of you, get it out of here, get it away from us. And I'm learning to do that with everything, because if it isn't of God, why do you want it there in the first place? It's like, why make your life harder? Marriage is hard enough. Being parents is hard enough. Why put something in your life that you know is not good for it? It's basically saying, okay, I'm going to put this rot here and it's only just a little bit. It's not that bad, but eventually it's going to grow and it's going to become a weed and it's going to choke your relationship out. It could. And you have to be very, very careful, because the devil's not going to come in the form you think he is. It's going to come in tiny little distractions, just maybe nights away or not having that date night or not praying anymore together. You just have to be really on guard and fight for having that bond and keeping that bond strong and making sure it's God, your spouse, and then your kids, and nothing comes between that, nothing. And you need to fight for that. And men need to really step up and be the spiritual leaders. It's important.
And I think that the devil initially in your spiritual life will tempt you with what is evil, making you think that it's good and harmless. Like, well, hey, I mean, look at the pornography and look at this, like that. Like, he'll tempt you with what is evil. And once you get accustomed to resisting those temptations, he'll then pivot to tempt you with what is good. Like, hey, look at this good ministry. Look at this good opportunity. Look at this good, this, good. And he wants you to chase after a good to distract you from what is truly important. So I think just being aware of that he's not always going to come with his little pitchfork and pointy, horns or whatever, that sometimes he'll just distract you from what is important by giving you something, dangling something in front of you that's good. But that's why it's good to have a good spiritual director, be connected as a couple, and things get tough. Go to counseling. I mean, Crystal and I are very open that we've been going to marriage counseling at different patches throughout our marriage where we need some help and support, because it's been a tough road for sure. Mm-hmm. And if people don't know that going into marriage, they think, oh my goodness, like this is hard. I must marry the wrong person. Let's get out of this. Instead of be like, no, they told us it would be hard. This is the hard part. Okay, what do? Get plugged into counseling. And if your spouse won't go with you to counseling, go by yourself. Like, don't deprive yourself of the support you need because the person refuses to accompany you on that healing journey.
Mm-hmm. It's important. And be humble about it, that if you are really struggling, you can't figure things out, find the help that you need. And back in the day, it was harder to find that kind of help. But now with social media and phones and apps and everything's right there at your fingertips, even to do it in your own home. You don't even have to go anywhere these days. You could just do it right there in your own home. But if you're really struggling in your marriage, in your friendship with your spouse, I would say take that spiritual inventory of where you two are at with God, and individually, and then also just where is your friendship? How's your dating life? Like, what's going on? What are the things that maybe are getting in between you that are not good, that need to maybe go and be done? So just to look at that, and just a shout out to Dr. Bob Schutz, because he's amazing and he has really helped us so much in just kind of staying on that right path and getting us through a lot.
Yeah, he runs the John Paul II Healing Center.
Amazing.
So if you're not familiar with that,
Anything,
check that out. And one thing that came to me recently too is, we were going on these dates, and then you've kind of fallen into a rut. Like, where do we want to eat dinner this time? Where do we want to eat dinner that time? And it's like, when I was dating her, it was like, no, let's go have fun.
Let's go to Legoland or something stupid.
Like, I mean, a real date that I tell the single is like, make sure it's fun and it gives you an opportunity to talk to each other. Just make sure it's got those two components. Be a little creative and just go do it. And we can fall into this. We haven't tried that restaurant before, and it's like, no, let's bust out of that a little bit, put a little bit more creativity into it, and I think it'll pay off. So women, I'd say, make sure, whether you're dating or married, play with your man. Go do what's fun to him. It's a huge, men bond typically shoulder to shoulder, whereas women tend to bond kind of face to face. And so for you, bonding might be like, we're going to sit at a coffee shop and we're going to talk about all the problems in our life. And for the guy, it's like, my cortisol is going through the roof after 45 seconds of this. This is not bonding. This is traumatizing. Like, go jet ski with the dude. Like, go find antlers in the woods. Like, just go do something with him. It doesn't have to be profoundly emotionally impactful for you to create a real sense of connection in his heart. So make sure you're doing
love language, right, is really important. It's to know each other's love language.
Yeah. So we're going camping, but 2 nights from now, bringing the kids.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Camping up in the mountains. Like, for me, it's just huge to do that kind of stuff. I got to go.
No glamping. Like, this is straight up camping. Okay. Like,
oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. We found. I went yesterday shed hunting, Josiah, with my 14-year-old son. I'm gonna text you a picture what we found. Oh, massive brownie elk monster matching set. Oh my goodness! You
saw it, right? Yeah.
So cool. Like, but my son, when we found that, Dad, we were hugging it, it was such an incredible bonding moment with him. And we're just looking at this gigantic antler that no human being has ever touched before, that we just find deep in the mountains of Arizona. And then it's like, okay, he's lost one, and the second one's got to be around. So we hiked for 3 hours, for 3 miles, gritting all over the place, and then found the matching set antler and just went, but he's screaming, and I'm holding 2 antlers, and he runs up to me, and I'm like hugging him, clacking the antlers together behind his back. Like, he was just unclouded. I mean, it's a memory he'll never forget. Yeah. And it wasn't like, now let's sit and talk to each other about fatherhood and, how's things going? I mean, yeah, you got to have that talk time, but just, it's so huge for guys to bond by doing things. And it is just a guy thing. Girls, be aware of this. It'll really form a deep sense of connection with him. Not that we're just having these long, deep conversations, but we're just doing things in each other's presence. It's gold to the heart of a man.
Yeah. Really great date I went on recently. We just went antiquing, which doesn't sound super masculine, but I'm super into old stuff, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But one of the things we ended up doing was pulling old yearbooks from the 70s and the 80s off these shelves.
Oh my God.
And just doing roasts of the people in the year, like roasting the people in the yearbooks together.
That's easy picking there. That's just poaching.
I found one that looks just like Bill Hader. Bill Hader apparently went to high school in rural Ohio. So,
but what's funny is the hairstyles, at least for the guys, are back.
Gosh.
I mean, the girls' hairstyles hopefully won't come back. But the guys, it's like, yep, that could look like a high school boy class of 2025.
Yes, it could.
Yeah. Crystal, you mentioned defending your marriage from new things. And I know a lot of people are really helped by concrete examples. So if you could, I think it'd be really helpful if you could give a concrete example of a time that, like, you two together defended your marriage from something new that you decided as a couple wasn't of God and that you wanted to get rid of.
I would say let's start with something that was in our marriage that was not good and that we had to kind of just reevaluate was the amount of time Jason was traveling back when we were in San Diego, and we just had our 4th, and it was a lot on me and it was just too much. And we both just had to pray and kind of step back and reevaluate how long he was gone until we found that kind of happy, like medium where it's like, okay, I can handle 3 days, 2 nights, and I'm not like overwhelmed with the kids and another pregnancy and everything else. So sometimes things that you have that worked before necessarily won't continue to always work throughout. So you just have to always keep discerning as you're going and making sure God is the center, because he really kind of balances things out, right? Even though it may not be what you want, it's what you need at the time. And having a strong prayer life will help you do that. Things I think recent, is that right?
Well, I mean, when he asked the question, that's what came to mind for me, because before we got married, I remember finding one of my own old calendars.
Crazy.
And I was traveling, speaking. I remember seeing 1 month where I was gone 28 days of the month. Like fly to Louisiana for a month, and a week, and then you're off to New York, and then you're off to Columbus, home for a day. You know, you can do some laundry, hit the gym, go surfing. You're on the plane 24 hours later, off, because I'm single. I can do whatever the heck I want, see the whole world. But then you get married, and it's like, okay, that's got to change. And we're booking these things out a year plus in advance. Yeah. And so we really had to have those conversations. Okay, what's the sweet spot that allows me to travel and work enough to support the family, but then doesn't burn you out at home? And so we came to this equation. Okay, maximum of 9 days per month, no more than 2 nights at a time. So I'll go out for 2 nights, be home for a week, week and a half, gone for 2 nights, home for a week, week and a half. So there's an inhale and an exhale. A friend of mine said a priest told him, don't become a street light only for your house to become dark. And it's so easy to be a saint on the road, but it's like, no, that's not. God wants you to be a saint in your vocation, not outside of it, in your occupation alone. And so, and then this year we just dropped it back to 8 days per month. And then we'll do internationals maybe once per quarter. Those can't be any longer than 5.5 days unless other family members are coming along. So we really came up with this algorithm, this formula of okay, this is it. But it's so liberating to have those rules mutually agreed upon in place, because if they're not, then what happens is my event coordinator reaches out. Oh, there's this other trip and they've got 5,000 kids. Can you do that talk? And it's like, oh, well, let me go ask Crystal. Crystal, can I add 3 more days to the calendar? Then she's got to think, okay, if I say yes, I'm going to lose my sanity. But if I say no, then those kids are going to lose their virginity. And so it's like, something's going to get lost here. And so what's it going to be? But she doesn't word it that way, but you get the feel for what we're saying. You can falsely guilt yourself into
because you want the best for the greater good, too.
But then you end up sacrificing your marriage on the altar of the ministry. And then the ministry can cannibalize the marriage, which is exactly what the devil wants. And so you've got to be able to put the ministry in its place. The priest told me the most important word you need to ever learn to be an effective apostle is no. Yeah. No, I won't do the interview. I won't do the retreat. I won't do the talk. I won't write the foreword of the book. I won't give the endorsement. No. Yeah. Because if you don't know how to say that word, the devil will just get you to say yes, 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 yes. And then the big thing just gets cannibalized.
As a couple where there is rot in your marriage or where things are off in your marriage, and one of you is just like, something just isn't right, or this is bothering me, and just take it to prayer and just be honest and open. And I think the safest place for a married couple to be is living in transparency. Mm-hmm. Just be totally honest and transparent. And if you can't live like that with your husband or your wife, that's a problem. So just be honest about what is going on, the situation, and just go at it. And if there is an issue there, you cut the serpent's head off and get it out of your lives, no matter what that is.
And
it needs to go.
And if you feel like something's got to come to the light, but I don't know what it is, I'd recommend take up a devotion to Our Lady of Sorrows, and just start praying to her, bring this to the light. Show what this thing is, and I really have found fruit in that. The graces from the Virgin Mary, her intercessory power, her support for your relationship. She'll bring stuff from the dark into the light, and like Crystal often says, the devil can't follow you into the light.
No, and Father Rupinger has an excellent video on Our Lady of Sorrows. I think it's maybe 10 minutes, but even a 5-minute clip, but it really explains how powerful a devotion to Our Lady of Sorrows is.
We'll link that in the description below.
That's great.
What was each of your parents' reaction to meeting the other one for the first time?
Let's see. I don't remember mine, but I remember Crystalina's kind of your foster father, Nigel.
Yeah.
This guy's big old 6 foot something, 200 whatever pound English rugby player guy.
Very cool. Very cool.
I remember Crystal telling me something about him that he told her that I was the first boyfriend ever that was not afraid of him. And that struck him somehow, like I was just not intimidated by the guy, not afraid of the guy. Yeah. And it wasn't because I'm Mr. Macho, it's just because he had the same heart as me, meaning like we both love Crystal and want what's best for her. Whereas previous boyfriends saw him as a threat and as just like, I don't want to get too close to that guy because I'm a different guy when he's around than I am when he's not around. Whereas I just saw no reason to be intimidated by this guy because he loved her and so did I. And so it was simple. So I remember that being a reaction she shared with me regarding Nigel. But
yeah.
Do you remember any parental reactions otherwise?
I remember when I met your parents for the first time that they said, "Oh, Jason's been talking about you for so long. It's so nice to finally meet you." And I was thinking, really? What? Because that was the first time I was there. But I guess because when we met in Bahamas, his little sister said that she had been talking about me since the Bahamas. So it was like a thing. That was a while.
Favorite stalker.
Busted. That's rough. I mean, it's a good thing it worked out, but that is rough. Busted.
No, she's my favorite stalker of like everybody.
I was
kidding. No, she never stalked me.
No,
I stalked her.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So yeah,
and then to wrap again, I just want to let everybody watch and know that we're going to be doing a lot more of these things. So step number 1, please pray for us. Please pray for our marriage, for it to be strengthened and healed and directed according to God's will. Your prayers mean the world to us. And then secondly, tune into these things. Keep an eye out because we're going to be announcing, hey, this one's coming up next week at this time. So you can call in, you can email in, message in, hey, I got this question. I always wondered, this is the situation in my relationship. What am I supposed to do? He said this, but then this happened. So whether it's dating, relationships, sexual morality, gender, contraception, homosexuality, pornography, breaking free, how do I know he's the one? Like any question on anything under the sun having to do with dating, relationships, life, love, everything in between, start tuning in. We're going to be doing these live Q&As, and we cannot wait to receive your questions, hear the struggles, the joys, ups and downs, and to kind of walk with you, accompany you on the way for God's plan for your life. And then if you want to email in your questions instead of calling in, you can just go to live@chastity.com. So live@chastity.com is where you can send in your questions. Then our editorial team will go through those. So we've got some in advance. So we'll probably pepper in the show with some previously emailed in questions with some live comments and chats and Q&As over the phone or through chat. But yeah, live@chastity.com. Send in your questions and we'll do our best to get through as many as we can per episode.